My daughter's husband tried to rob me, but what he found made him regret everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started with a scream, a sound that sliced through the afternoon silence, ringing in my ears like a fire alarm. My heart raced. I dropped the groceries, apples rolling helplessly across the floor, their red skins glistening like tiny beacons of hope amidst the chaos. There he was, my son-in-law, his face twisted in panic and greed, his hands trembling as he reached for something he thought was mine. Just hours before, laughter filled my kitchen. The aroma of freshly baked bread hung in the air. Emily, my daughter, glowed with joy, her eyes sparkling like sunlight bouncing off water. I loved her husband, or so I thought. But now, witnessing the desperation etching lines into his face, a knot twisted in my stomach. What had I missed? I remembered how he used to charm us with his wit, how he danced around my kitchen like he belonged there. But today his demeanor shifted, darkened like a storm cloud rolling in. The house felt different. Heavy. I could almost taste the tension thick between us. A chill swept through the room as he rummaged through my things, tearing apart my peaceful world in his ruthless search. "Where is it?" he growled, voice low and menacing. My chest tightened. I had something he wanted, something I never dreamed would spark this chaos. My grandmother's locket, an heirloom that had passed through generations, hung heavy around my neck. I had kept it secret, a sanctuary of memories locked away from prying eyes. Now it was a target. I hesitated, an internal war raging. Should I protect my daughter's husband, the man I once trusted? Or shield my history, my family legacy? My hands trembled. I felt the locket press against my heart, a silent plea for protection. He turned to me, eyes wild. "You can't keep it. It should be mine." His voice dripped with something foul. I stood frozen, mouth dry. I wanted to scream, to shout for help, but my voice fell silent, trapped in my throat. Behind him, the light from the window caught the locket, bright and taunting. I knew he didn't understand. He didn't see the stories woven into its delicate design. The love, the sacrifice. All at once it felt like the walls were closing in. I was stuck in a moment that seemed to stretch beyond time. Suddenly he lunged. The air crackled with tension. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. Adrenaline surging. I swerved, dodging his reach. Panic flashed across his face, and it hit me, this wasn't just about the locket anymore. It was about control, about desperation spiraling into violence. "Stop!" I cried, but the word barely escaped. It hung between us, thick and suffocating. What would happen next? My chest heaved as he stared at me, realization dawning. In that instant, everything shifted. The ground beneath us felt unstable. I could feel my life as I knew it tilting on the verge of chaos. What was about to unravel? Just at that moment, Emily appeared at the threshold, hair cascading down her back, eyes wide and confused. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice a blend of fear and innocence. The tension snapped like a brittle twig. I could see the realization wash over her face as her husband turned to her, caught in his own storm of lies. My heart ached. He couldn't hurt her. Not now, not ever. Just as quickly as the fight ignited, a new horror began to unfold. I felt the truth swell around me like a dense fog. Did he plan to take more than just the locket? My mind raced. What was behind his sudden madness? The air thickened with tension, each breath raw and primal. I needed answers. The frightening question loomed above us like a dark cloud. What else had he hidden from us? And what happened next would change everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Emily stepped into the room, her presence illuminated the darkness that had encroached upon us like a shroud. I could see the confusion morph into worry as her eyes darted between her husband and me, searching for an explanation. Her hand instinctively went to her throat, as if she too felt the weight of history pressing down on us. "Emily, please," I started, the words clawing at my throat. I wanted to protect her, But how could I shield her from the truth? How could I frame a situation that felt so raw, so entirely fractious? I wanted to shout it out, to warn her of the monster lurking behind the facade of the man she had married. But fear strangled my voice. "Mark," she said, her voice tense with concern, "what's happening?" Her gaze remained locked on her husband. I watched as he struggled to hold on to his composure, each passing moment unraveling him further. "You need to tell her the truth," I urged, the tremors in my hands echoing the uncertainty in my heart. But Mark's expression hardened, his jaw tightening as he looked from me to Emily, caught in a whirlwind of shame and fury. I had seen that look before, the facade slipping away to reveal someone else entirely. "What truth?" Emily pressed, and I admired her courage. She crossed the threshold of our home into the heart of this storm, unyielding. But I could see the turmoil etching deeper lines into her brow. A mix of loyalty and fear fought within her, the same battle that raged inside me. "It's not what you think," he shot back defensively, stepping towards her as if the distance between them was killing him. I was just trying to help." The insinuation that he was savior instead of thief hung like a noose in the air. "Help?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling with disbelief. "By robbing your own mother-in-law? By tearing apart the family?" How could he not see the insanity laid bare before us? The irony stung. Here I was fighting for my heritage, my daughter's love clashing with greed. The tension seemed palpable, curling around us like smoke, heavy with implications. Emily took a cautious step back, her eyes wide as realization seeped in, painting over her trust with strokes of betrayal. "Mark, what did you do?" As she said his name, it was as if a dam had burst within her, a wave of clarity washing away the cobwebs of denial. In that moment everything shifted. I could sense the pivot in the room, where the last remnants of the illusion shattered. "Nothing, I swear," he insisted, voice harsh. But his eyes betrayed him, darting away as if seeking an escape rather than making amends. "I just needed what?" Emily demanded, her voice cracking with the weight of her disappointment. "To lie to me? To steal? Mark, this isn't you." A crack of thunder rolled in the distance, and just like that the atmosphere above us shifted ominously. The storm seemed to echo our plight, raw, primal, teetering on the edge. Beyond the window lightning flickered, illuminating the fragile state of our reality. Before Mark could respond, ringing broke through the silence, his phone, vibrating incessantly on the table. He snatched it up, glancing at the screen. The color bled from his face, his eyes widening as he backed away. "Two have to go," he stammered, dread creeping into his voice, but I wouldn't let him escape so easily. "No," I said, fighting for my voice to remain steady amidst the tempest. "You're not going anywhere. Not until you tell us what's going on." "I can't explain right now," he shouted, desperation creeping into every syllable. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand," Emily cried, her voice cutting through his panic like a lifeline. "Whatever it is, we can face it together, but you need to tell me what's really happening, that I am in trouble. Okay?" His admission came out like a gasp, the mask slipping further. "I owe money. Dangerous people, they want what's theirs, and I thought if I could just get my hands on the locket, we'd be safe." The room spun with his confession, shifting the ground beneath us. My heart raced as pieces started to fit together: his recent erratic behavior, the hint of shadows lurking behind his false smiles. But why couldn't he ask for help? Why resort to theft and deception instead of confiding in Emily and me? I watched confusion dance across Emily's expression, doubt mingling with disbelief. "You're risking everything for money? For a quick fix?" she whispered, heartache etched into her voice. The answer was there, clouded in shame and desperation. "I didn't know how else to fix it," he mumbled, the fight draining from him as the weight of his choices pressed down. "I thought you'd understand." A cold realization seeped into my bones. The struggle was far from over. The danger was only beginning. And as I looked into my daughter's eyes, tinged with hope and fear, I knew that a confrontation with the terrifying unknown lay ahead for all of us. And just as the silence settled back in, another shattering sound echoed through the house. This time, it came from the door. A series of sharp knocks that seemed to reverberate like a death knell, anchoring us in trepidation. The storm outside reflected the tempest building within, signaling that the threats weren't just from within anymore. I looked at Mark, horrified, understanding dawning. "What did you get us into?" I whispered, But he could only stare back, terror glazing over his features as the reality of our precarious situation began to dawn. Behind that door lay answers we might not be ready to hear, or worse, consequences we may not be able to escape. The air felt different the moment the doorbell rang, charged with an electricity that hinted at impending doom. Time slowed. I could sense Emily's breathing quicken as we exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. The cracks in her trust were deepening, mirroring my own shattered heart. Mark stood frozen, the color leached from his face, leaving nothing but dread in its wake. The knocking grew more insistent, a relentless reminder of the chaos hovering just outside our sanctuary. I took a hesitant step forward, wrestling with the weight of uncertainty that pressed down on me. "Should we answer it?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper, broken and uncertain. "I don't know," I replied, glancing back at Mark. He shook his head, fear etching deep lines on his forehead. How had we arrived at this point? His once soft features now bore the gauntness of someone marked by the shadows of his choices. Another wave of knocks reverberated through the house, firmer this time, urgent. I felt a surge of adrenaline course through me. We had to face whatever awaited us. I nodded slowly, but it was an affirmation wrapped in trepidation. Steeling our resolve, I moved to the door and hesitated only for a moment before swinging it open. What I saw sent a chill racing down my spine. A man stood there, tall and imposing, his presence radiating a mixture of authority and menace. He wore a dark leather jacket, a calculated calm in his demeanor that felt far too sinister for my comfort. Behind him, rain poured down in a torrent, the storm outside echoing the tumult within. "Is Mark here?" he demanded, his voice smooth yet clipped, with an underlying tension that sent shivers down my spine. "Yes, he is," I replied, stepping slightly in front of Emily as if my presence alone could shield her from whatever this man represented. "Who are you?" The visitor's gaze flicked past me, landing on Mark, who instinctively took a step back. The contrast of the warmth of the home against the cold shadows this man cast felt suffocating. "I'm looking for what's owed," he said, each word resonating with the weight of a concealed threat. Mark all but emitted a nervous breath behind me, and I could sense the way his body tightened, his fear palpable. "I didn't think you'd come looking for me here," he stammered, eyes darting nervously. The man let out a low chuckle, one that felt morbidly amused. "You didn't think you could just take what isn't yours and run, did you?" He leaned closer, a predatory glint in his eye. "You made promises, kid. And you owe." "Please," Mark implored, his voice trembling. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I felt the room constrict around us as I resisted the urge to take a step back, wanting to create more space between Mark and this looming figure. "You need to leave," I told the man firmly, hoping my voice did not waver. "You're scaring my family." "Oh, I'm just getting started," he replied, flashing a smile that was devoid of any warmth. "You see, I have a vested interest in this little situation. Your husband," he gestured towards Mark, "is in way over his head. And I can't just let that slide." Emily gasped, the realization crashing down like a wave on the shore. Her husband was not only drowning, he was dragging us under with him. The defeat in Mark's posture was unmistakable, but this man's eyes glinted with a cruel satisfaction. "Mark, what did you get us into?" I whispered, the words escaping my lips before I could reel them back. And as I looked at my daughter, her betrayed expression broke me just a little bit more. "I'll fix this," Mark said desperately, his voice rising in panic. "I'll find the money. I just need more time." "Time isn't a luxury you have," the man snapped, stepping into the house as if he owned the space. His presence filled the room, a dark vortex that threatened to pull in everything we held dear. He stared at Emily, a calculating look in his eyes. "Don't you dare," I warned, adrenaline surging through me. "Stay away from her." "Oh, she knows nothing of the real stakes," he said, his gaze flicking back to Mark, who stood paralyzed by guilt. "But she will. And then it will be all too real for both of you." My heart sank as Emily's breath hitched next to me. This man was a harbinger of the storm Mark had invited into our Levisa malevolence we might not be able to escape. "I will do whatever it takes," Mark pleaded. And I watched as hope flickered in Emily's eyes, a final ember fighting against the shadows. "No more lies," I said, my words fierce as I stepped forward, feeling the energy pulse around us. "If he knows, then we all deserve to know the truth of this mess." The man's smirk faded as he considered me, regarding me with the curiosity of a predator studying its prey. All right then, he said, voice rich with malice. You all want to play? Let's make this interesting. That's not a game you want to play, I warned, but my words were barely a whisper beneath the weight of foreboding. And just then, a tremor shook the house, shuddering with intensity, as if the very fabric of our lives was about to unravel. I feared what consequences might follow, what ramifications would be unleashed. In that suspended moment, with the storm raging both outside and in our hearts, I realized something unimaginable. In front of us stood not just a manha, was a harbinger of the future, a messenger whose appearance foretold a reckoning none of us were prepared for. And as that realization set in, the door swung open wider behind me, and a wave of cold wind rushed in, bringing with it an unsettling sense of finality. The man took a single step further, filling the doorway and eclipsing the weak glow of the overhead light. You're either incredibly brave or terribly foolish, he sneered, cocking his head at my words. I could feel Mark's anxiety radiating off him like heat from a flame, and Emily stood beside me, grappling with a reality she had always thought lay far removed from the sanctity of our home. Get out, I demanded, my voice unwavering even as the shadows of fear and uncertainty gathered around us. I could see Mark's mouth open slightly, words stuck behind a barrier of trepidation. He wanted to say something, to take back control, but he was trapped, an unwilling actor in a play written by forces far beyond his influence. Fine, I'll take my leave, the man relented, but his eyes flickered with a challenge that made my skin crawl. But know this, the clock is ticking. You have 3 days to deliver what's owed. If you fail, he trailed off, punctuating his sentence with a menacing grin before stepping back into the rain, melting into the dark expanse of night. As the door swung shut, we all stood frozen, rooted to the spot. The room could have been a mausoleum, heavy with the weight of the unsaid. I turned to Mark, desperate to break the silence but unsure of how to cut through the tension. What have you done? My voice strained against the air, a thin thread connecting my fury to the fear in Emily's eyes. I'll fix it, he blurted, his words tumbling out like marbles scattering across the floor. I just didn't want to involve you. I thought you thought what? That would be safe from the fallout? I spat, the raw hurt spilling from my heart. You kept us in the dark, Mark. That man could have hurt us. Emily's shoulders slumped, her confusion palpable. Dad, what does he mean we owe him money? What did you do? I watched as Mark wilted under our scrutiny, his facade crumbling away to reveal the man beneath, one who was frightened and perhaps even broken. It's complicated, he said softly, voice shaking. I made some bad choices trying to support us. I thought I was being smart. But you weren't, I shot back, bitterness creeping into my words. This isn't just bad choices, Mark. This is putting our lives in danger. A moment of silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating, as Emily's eyes flicked from me to Mark. You took money from what? A loan shark. It was only a few $1,000s. Mark protested, desperation coloring his tone. I thought I could pay it back quickly. It spiraled, of course it did. I interrupted, the frustration overwhelming me. These things never just go away. They grow roots and drag you down. Just then, the gentle sound of raindrops tapping against the window shifted to a violent drumming, echoing our inner turmoil. I glanced outside, feeling the chill seep through the glass, and it felt like the heavens were weeping for the choices we had allowed to bring us to this moment. Hell be back, I warned, forcing myself to collaborate emotionally with the reality we faced, knowing Mark would have to face the consequences of his actions. We need to have a plan. Before I could finish, my phone buzzed sharply on the countertop, a stark reminder of how fragile our cocoon of safety truly was. I leaned over to grab it, my heart racing, and a shocking message appeared on the screen. It was from an unknown number, but the context sent a shiver down my spine. You know what they say about secrets, don't you? They have a way of unraveling. I swallowed hard, staring at the words as they blurred with unshed tears. I could feel Emily's gaze on my back, intense and probing. Who is it? She asked, her youthful innocence stark against the dark reality that threatened to choke our family. I don't know, I murmured, the uncertainty sending prickles of fear down my spine. But it feels like a warning. Mark, who had turned pale, closed the distance to me, grasping my shoulder tightly, as if holding on to me could somehow tether our imminent fate. We can handle this. We will figure it out together. We have to, he said, though the edge of doubt tainted his voice. But the storm outside intensified, rain slashing at the roof like an army advancing, mirroring the war festering among us. And for a moment, the cacophony of the weather seemed to drown out the growing cracks forming within our family's foundation. "Mom," Emily said softly, stepping closer to me, her voice trembling slightly. "I know you want to protect us, but what if it's too late?" Her question hung in the air like a bitter fruit, ripe with the potential for regret. Time felt suspended, each second stretching between our uncertainty and the darkness looming just out of view. And then my heart dropped as I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, heavy, deliberate, like a death knell verging on our fragile hope. The door rattled once again, and dread washed over me like a tidal wave. "Mark," I whispered, my heart racing. It might be him, and just like that, the reality of our disarray collided violently with the promise of what was to come, our very lives hanging in the balance, poised at the edge of an unfathomable abyss. The knock came again, louder this time, reverberating through the silence that had fallen like a cloak over us. I locked eyes with Mark as we both took a simultaneous breath, our senses sharpened by the pounding of adrenaline in our veins. Emily stood close, her fingers brushing against my arm, seeking reassurance or perhaps just a connection, a tether in the vast sea of uncertainty. "Stay back," I instructed, my voice firm despite the tremors in my heart. I understood the instinct to protect, yet in that moment, I felt the urge to shield Emily from more than just the assailant at our door. I needed to shield her from Mark's reckless choices too, whether he wanted my protection or not. As I edged toward the door, each step felt like wading through thick mud, the air stifling. The pounding continued, insistent and menacing, and I could feel a tremor run through the very bones of our house, responding to the chaos that threatened to break within. "Let me handle this," Mark said, moving closer to me, his expression a mix of fear and determination. There was an urgency in his eyes. I could see that he wanted to prove himself, to reclaim the role of protector. But I couldn't shake the doubt gnawing at my insides. "No," I insisted, stepping back to place myself between Mark and the door. "You've already put us in danger. You need to let me deal with this." With a final defiant glance at Mark, I reached for the door handle, feeling the cold metal beneath my palm as if it were an anchor to my resolve. I took a breath and swung it open, bracing myself for whatever lay beyond. The night swirled around me, cloaked in a darkness so thick it felt tangible, but there was no one there, not at first glance, just the empty porch glistening from the rain's relentless assault. My heart was pounding in my chest. Surely this was a false alarm, maybe even a trick of the mind born from the fraught exchanges of the evening. But then I heard the rustle of fabric just to my left. Chills prickled my skin as I turned, and there he stood. The man, his silhouette sharp against the flickering streetlight, his expression equally shadowed. The glimpse of a glinting object in his hand revealed itself a sleek silver blade, reflecting the minimal light and sending a clear message that he was not merely playing games. "You didn't want to play, huh?" he said, his voice low and filled with an amused threat. "You opened my invitation after all." Before I could react or muster words, he took a step forward, disrupting the small space of safety I had hoped to maintain. Almost involuntarily, my body flinched, pushing me slightly behind the threshold. "Mom!" Emily's voice rang out, fear-filled and insistent, and I felt something deep within me tighten at the sound. Despite Mark's previous failures, his protective instinct surged forward, compelling him to stand shoulder to shoulder with me against the looming threat. Yet a familiar pang of doubt twisted painfully in my stomach. "Stay inside, Emily." "Lock the door," I commanded, the tremor in my voice betraying my confidence. "It's not safe." But I was too late. The man stepped completely onto our porch, as though there was a magnetic pull beyond the threshold that beckoned him in. "Ah, what a lovely family atmosphere," he mocked. "I'd hate to spoil it, but time waits for no one." The silent beat of tension pulsed around us, each moment too heavy with implications. "You need to leave," I demanded, steeling my voice even as my heart raced. "You have no right to threaten us." Mark placed an arm protectively in front of me, raising his chin with defiance. "You don't need to do this," he stated, an air of betrayal mixed with resolution in his tone. "Whatever you think you're owed, take it up with me. Leave my family out of this." The man tilted his head, amusement flickering across his features. "Your family. Oh, make no mistake. All of you are entwined in this mess. You think you can just hand off responsibility like that? I don't think so." Something stirred within me, A fire born not just from the duty of motherhood but from the desire to reclaim our lives. We will find a way to make this right, but not like this. I interjected, my words taut with determination. You can't do this. You can't control us with fear. The smirk on his face only deepened, a predatory glimmer in his eyes. But fear is a familiar friend. And just wait, it's only just beginning. You all need to learn the price of honesty, the price of secrets. As quickly as head appeared, he stepped back, raising the blade slightly as if playing a final card. 3 days, remember? But for every day you don't deliver, he trailed off, the implication sharp enough to cut through the already tense atmosphere with that. He turned, gliding back into the obscurity of the night, his laughter echoing hauntingly behind him, twisting deeper into the dark recesses of our minds. As the door clicked shut behind me, I leaned against it heavily, breathless, overwhelmed by the reality of our situation. What does he mean? What does he know? Emily's voice was small, trembling with the vulnerability of a child thrust into a tumultuous situation. I turned to look at Mark, who stood rigid, a flicker of dread behind his eyes that mirrored my own. We can't let him get to us, he murmured, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed his desire to remain steadfast. I can't let him put you in danger anymore, Mark. I need to know everything, I said, fear morphing into a quiet urgency. As we locked gazes, a heavy silence surrounded us, framing the fragile path we needed to traverse. But before we could dive into uncharted waters, my phone buzzed ominously once more. With shaking hands, I picked it up, the screen reflecting the impending fate we were being dragged toward. I opened the message. Secrets have a way of curling around the truth. You're closer than you think. Inside me, a storm of emotions raged: fear, anger, compassion, but above all, a sense that the truth was lurking just beneath the surface. One frantic pulse of anxiety could render us as curious heroes or helpless victims. And as I glanced up, my eyes meeting Mark's again, I knew then that we were not just pawns in this game anymore. We were awakening, prepared to fight against the shadows, but what we would find could shatter everything we thought we knew about ourselves and each other. I barely had time to process the message on my phone before silence engulfed the room. Emily's wide eyes darted between Mark and me, confusion and dread etched on her delicate features. The air thickened, suffocating us in its weight. I felt my heart racing, a frenetic rhythm that echoed the chaos swirling around us. Who sent that? Mark questioned, his voice steadier than I felt. The flicker of fear in his eyes promised an urgency that resonated with my own. I don't know, I admitted, my voice a whisper as I touched the screen lightly, searching for a clue. There was no sender's name, no context, just a haunting message that felt like a dark cloud hovering over us. Mom, what does it mean? Emily asked, her voice trembling as she took a tentative step closer, seeking the sanctuary of my presence. I placed a hand gently on her shoulder, trying to offer her some semblance of comfort, even as my insides twisted with uncertainty. I don't know, sweetie. But we need to stay calm, I replied, forcing my tone to remain steady. We'll figure this out together. A weak promise, I knew, but it was all I had to give at that moment. Mark rubbed his temples, frustration marred his features. What could they possibly mean? How are we closer to anything? What secret are they talking about? He looked directly at me, and in his gaze I recognized the storm brewing. It stirred a mix of hope and fear, igniting a fire to uncover whatever lay hidden beneath the surface of our lives. Betrayal from my husband had already wrapped itself around our family. If secrets were lurking, I had a sinking feeling they were far more dangerous than the knife wielded by our mysterious visitor just hours earlier. I hesitated, torn between revealing the truths I'd buried deep within myself and protecting what remained of our fractured family unit. Maybe if we talk about it? I started, but the words trailed off as I saw the dread grow on Mark's face, his jaw tightening as if bracing for impact. Talk about what? My past? The choices I made? His voice was sharp, each syllable cutting through the fragile atmosphere. That would only make it worse, wouldn't it? He's right, Mom, Emily interjected with fervor. If we don't understand what we're dealing with, we're just sitting ducks for that guy. We have to know. For a flicker of a moment, I saw the glimmer of understanding in Mark's eyes, as though he recognized the truth in my daughter's plea. I can explain what I can, but there are things even I don't fully grasp, he said, an unspoken weight carried in his voice. Before I could respond, another vibration rippled through my phone. I refused to give in to dread, yet simultaneously clawed for answers. We all dimmed in the glow of the screen as I opened yet another message, a simple set of 4 words. Trust no one, especially me. A wave of nausea washed over me. This had surpassed mere intimidation. This was a direct invitation into the abyss of chaos that heralded the storm of the past. That doesn't make sense, I gasped, fervently looking back to Mark. Why would anyone say that? Why would they want to toy with us like this? Mark ran a hand through his hair, frustration overcome by palpable confusion. It's as if they think we're players in their twisted game, not just victims. I could see him wrestling with the implications. A part of him still wanted to protect me, deflect the darkness from our daughter and keep Emily's innocence intact. But how much longer could we afford to keep living that way? What do you know about the past that could be putting us in peril, Mark? What were you involved in? My voice cracked, desperation spilling from every word. I needed him to reveal himself, to lay everything bare before we became ensnared once more. Mark's expression flickered, but he maintained a steadfast gaze, wrestling with the weight of his own concealed truth. His pause spoke volumes. She was grappling to find his footing beneath a relentless tide. I was involved in something that spun out of control. But I thought I left it all behind, he confessed, his voice steady yet low. I didn't think it would come back to haunt us, that it could reach Emily. But it has, Mark. It already has. I felt the intensity of my emotions boiling over. Each word an involuntary release of pent-up frustration and worry. We're not safe anymore, and you can't brush this under the rug anymore. A flicker of guilt crossed his face as he stepped closer. I won't hide it from you. Promise. I didn't know, he faltered, tearing his gaze from me, a reflection of self-loathing shadowing his features. I should have told you long ago. You deserve to know who I really am. Just then a soft thump sounded from the back door, followed by the soft creak as it pushed inward. My heart seized, and Mark's body stiffened at the potential threat. Emily! I shouted urgently, instinctively pushing her behind me as I took a protective stance. Get ready to run, Mark ordered, edging toward the kitchen where the sound had come from, determination etched in every taut line of his frame. And yet, as our world felt poised on the brink of a new discovery, whether buried sins or unmistakable dangers, my mind raced. Was there truth in his revelations? Could I bear the weight of the secrets that linked us more than I had ever fathomed? As tension hung palpably, a figure emerged from the shadows, disheveled and rain-soaked but no less alarming. My breath hitched, heart pounding once more. Mom! It's me! The figure cried, dropping down from the doorway. Emily gasped. Noah? Her brother, the one we had lost in our own turbulence, was standing there. A ghost of the past we thought we wouldn't have to face again. With hopeful eyes glancing between the 3 of us, his breath hitched in anticipation. I know everything about the danger, about the debts. And I can help. A mix of relief and fear washed over me. An uncertain wave crashing against the shore of our frayed family. And I realized, as he stood there before us, the true battle was just beginning, to reclaim what remained or to risk losing everything again. The rain pattered gently against the window, but inside, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Noah stood before us, a fragile bridge between the past we fought to forget, and the reality we were grappling with. I searched his face, that familiar frame suddenly stark against the backdrop of our pressing fears. How did you find us? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper, caught between disbelief and a yearning for comfort amidst the chaos. I followed the signs, he replied, his brow creased in determination. I overheard some conversations, and I couldn't ignore the warnings anymore. It was about you, about everything. I had to come. Mark's expression shifted, a storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. No, it's not safe. You shouldn't have come here. You don't understand the risk. Noah knows, Emily intervened, her voice soft yet firm. He's been talking with people from our past. He has to know something. I do, Noah affirmed, locking eyes with me. I've spent too long in the shadows, Mom, trying to piece together what happened. The debts Mark owed, they were just the beginning. The room closed in around us, a tight circle of suppressed emotions. I saw the flicker of fear in Mark's eyes, wrestling with something he had never fully disclosed to me. Perhaps it was time for everything to unravel. Every thread spun into a different tale of grief and rage as I stepped closer to Noah. My heart ached at the sight of my son, so much like the boy I used to know, yet marred by the harsh realities of life. What do you mean the beginning? I pressed, aching for the truth that had eluded us for so long. Mom. Listen, he took a breath, steadiness in his tone. Whatever Mark was involved in, there are people still on his trail. They've become desperate, and it's spiraling out of control. But there are ways we can combat this. Combat it? Mark scoffed, his voice edged with frustration. They're not after me anymore. They're after all of you. I put us all in danger the day I thought I could turn my back on my past. His gaze burned into mine. A heavy weight of regret illuminating uncharted territory between you. Is this why we received those messages? I dared to ask the question, clawing at my throat. Is this what led to that man appearing at our door? Noah nodded slowly. It's all connected. I needed to warn you, to show you what we're dealing with. Those people aren't just looking for money. They're desperate and vengeful. In that moment, fragments of our family's past collided. I remembered the nights of hushed conversations, the missed phone calls, and the shadows lurking just outside the light of our lives. My heart raced with understanding, the weight of Mark's hidden past, and Noah's return signaling something deep, a maelstrom of secrets we'd been carrying like burdens too heavy to bear. We have to leave, Mark declared abruptly, his eyes wild with urgency, but I stood firm. No more running, I responded firmly. We need to face this. We can't keep fleeing from our shadows. I could feel Emily's eyes on me, searching for strength as if my words had the power to reshape our fate. Mark's shoulders sagged, defeat replacing the courage he once held. And if they come after us? I can't let them hurt you. But they already have, Mark, I pleaded, edging closer. And hiding won't stop it. We need to expose the truth, not just run from it. Noah took a steadying breath, and in that moment, I saw the fight rise within him. I can help us prepare. We can gather what we need and maybe even turn this around. There's a safe house, one I've been using. They'll never expect us to fight back. The glimmer of hope sparked amidst our turmoil. Ideas of a plan, of resistance, began to materialize in the spaces between our fragmented conversations. For the first time since we received that ominous message, possibilities danced on the horizon. As Mark exchanged a glance with Noah, a silent communication passed between them, the unspoken threads of the past now linking our futures. I might not have all the answers, but perhaps together we could forge a path out of this chaos. But as we contemplated our course of action, the soft thumping resumes, steady and foreboding, accompanied by low murmurs drifting through the night, my instincts pricked with renewed fear. Someone's out there, I pronounced, my heart racing a second time. Emily scrambled closer to my side while Mark stepped protectively in front of us. Noah tightened his grip on the kitchen counter, his body stiffening as we all oriented ourselves toward the door. Whoever it is, Noah whispered, his voice a hushed tremor of resolve tinged with fear. We need to face them. Before the words could settle, the door swung open abruptly, revealing a shadowy figure cloaked in darkness. My breath caught again as recognition washed over me, a chill prickling my skin. Hello, family, the figure said, that same haunting tone reverberating through the room, each word wrapping itself around my mind like a coil of terror. It seems we've got a lot to discuss. And in that moment, the fragile hope I had begun to build crumbled into a kaleidoscope of dread, scattering my once resolute determination. The true confrontation lay ahead, and the darkness was inching closer. The sharp crack of the door springing open felt like an eruption. The silhouette that stepped into the dim kitchen seemed almost to absorb the light, a living shadow that twisted the air around us. My heart hammered in my chest as I fought to make sense of the apparition before us, no longer just the specter of an unresolved past, but an unmistakable figure emerging, uninvited and threatening. Carmen. The figure spoke my name as if tasting it on his tongue, pulling me further into the quicksand of my own memories. Instantly I recognized him. It was Ethan, the only man I had ever truly called a friend. Our connections tangled like roots in a sprawling tree. But I had lost him, and to confront him now felt like facing a phantasm, shadows obscuring what was once familiarity. What are you doing here? I managed, anger and fear warring for dominance in my trembling voice. Ethan stepped closer, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed the boy I once knew, a hint of compassion buried under layers of darkness. I came to warn you. Things are escalating. I didn't leave you behind because I wanted to, he said, anguish spilling from his words. You have to believe me. Mark's protective instincts surged forth, readying himself. You think you can just waltz back in after everything? After all you've done? Behind him I could see Emily clutching Noah's arm, her expression a cocktail of confusion and fear. The tense silence wrapped us tightly as we comprehended the implications of Ethan's return. Each second that passed felt thick with unspoken words, truths ripe for unearthing. Noah stepped forward, breaking the chain of silence. How do we know you aren't just one of them? What do you want? His voice trembled slightly, caught between hurt and suspicion, drawing the threads of our shared trauma tighter. I want you safe, Ethan replied, desperation bleeding into his words. It's worse than you think. The people looking for Mark theory not just out for revenge. They're seeking something deeper. A way to settle a debt that's far beyond money. I'm here because if they find you it won't end well. I could feel the atmosphere glowing with disbelief as Mark exchanged tense glances with Noah. I stepped closer to Ethan, trying to peel away the weight of distrust suffocating the air. But how can we trust you? You left us behind, Ethan. When we needed you, you vanished. I know, he said, looking at me with haunted eyes. But I've been tracking this group. They're ruthless. They control everything, our past, our present. And they won't stop until they get what they want. Moonlight spilled through the window, illuminating Ethan's unrest, shifting my perspective of him. He was still burdened by guilt, even as he tried to be our ally. Something within me softened at the glimpse of vulnerability he revealed, but it was nothing compared to the heart-wrenching frustration burning in Mark's gaze. Why should we believe you now? Mark challenged, stepping forward. After everything. Ethan's shoulders sagged as if the weight of his choices crushed him. I want to help. Look, I've been trying to find a way to make this right, to keep my family safe. I've managed to dig up information they're planning something big, and we don't have much time. Time for what? I pressed, stepping closer to Ethan, desperation creeping into my heart like a creeping vine choked with thorns. That an attack, he said bluntly. An attempt to finish what they started. It's happening soon. The air grew thick with panic, our breaths aligning in nervous synchrony. We need to find shelter, keep each other safe, I proposed, looking at each person gathered around me. We'd all been ensnared by secrets and history, but clarity now swept through the chaos. But as I turned to share my thoughts, a sudden loud crash echoed through the house. My stomach dropped. The sound reverberated like a death knell. And our resolve faltered just as a surge of urgency radiated through me. Go! Mark shouted, pushing Emily and Noah toward the back door while I faced Ethan, who stood frozen, his gaze fixed on the door they just entered. I can't let you be alone. With this I said urgently. We'll give you time to explain on the way. But just as we took our first breaths of relief, the figure of another man stepped into the kitchen, smirking, confidence glimmering like a blade in the darkness. He was flanked by two equally foreboding shadows, their presence a sharp reminder of the dangers we had desperately tried to evade. Too late for that, he said coolly, his eyes glinting like ice. We were hoping you would lead us right to him. Panic erupted, racing through my veins as our newfound ally was caught in a web woven with threads of betrayal, fear, and desperation. The weight of their intentions hung heavy in the air, and I realized we might have awakened something far worse than the shadows of our past. As the echoes of urgency morphed into the cacophony of chaos, I knew we were once again teetering on the edge of something transcendental and terrifying, a precarious contest of survival against forces pulling us in, threatening to drag us back to the darkness from which we had fought so fiercely to emerge. The air crackled with tension, each heartbeat echoing the panic that gripped us all. I felt trapped in a surreal tableau, my body rooted in place as dread filled every corner of my mind. Mark's sharp intake of breath beside me flickered a spark of fear, his face twisted with emotions I could barely name as the intruders closed in, their intentions cloaked in malice. We need to move, I managed to say, although the words were little more than a whisper caught in the chaos. Time disintegrated around us, splintering into jagged shards of urgency and despair. Ethan's fingers clenched at his sides. In his eyes I saw the storm brewing between hope and self-loathing. I didn't think they would find me here, he murmured, the regret evident in every quivering syllable. The men moved like wolves cornering prey, their confidence threatening to fracture our already fraying resolve. Running won't help you, the one in front taunted, the cruel smile carved into his face igniting a deeper fear within me. You're all tangled in this mess, and it's only going to get worse, and oh, Mark shouted, shoving me and the others back toward the kitchen door, his eyes scanning for a means of escape. Carmen, we go now. But the door seemed to retreat like a mirage, its security stripped away by the uncertainty flooding my heart to know. I pressed, urgency crashing against reason. Ethan, stay beside us. We need to keep him safe. The interplay of emotions hung heavy in the space as Ethan shook his head. I can't let them take you. I won't let that happen again. His voice trembled, yet it was laced with the fury of a storm unveiled. I could see the resolve building within him, igniting a flicker of courage even amidst the chaos. Before I could react, Ethan surged forward, locking eyes with the leader of the men. Take me instead, he shouted, unyielding in the face of danger. I've seen what you can do, the lengths you're willing to go. If you're here for me, then let them go. My stomach twisted in panic, an internal battle against the notion of sacrificing one to save many. But as Ethan stepped closer to the men, I felt an unexpected spike of energy surge through the room. He was translating fear into an act of defiance, and with that, I realized that perhaps there was more strength in unity than I had ever imagined. Stop! I cried out, desperation overriding my senses. You don't have to do this. We can help you. There's more at stake here than revenge. We can work together. Ethan shot me a glance, his eyes flickering with uncertainty, but there was also a glimmer of something deeper, hope, perhaps? It was dashed as quickly as it appeared when the leader smirked, stepping even closer to Ethan, eyes narrowing with malice. You're a fool if you think we can cooperate, boy, he hissed. This is a reckoning, and you're just the beginning of it. The trust one had afforded Ethan faltered, swirling with my thoughts of betrayal. Would he truly hand himself over to these men? It felt like the unraveling of a delicate tapestry, threads of our connections threatening to snap with one careless tug. Carmen, Mark said roughly, tearing my attention away from the unfolding tension. We need to find a way out now. The chaos in the room intensified, our options dwindling like flames in a storm. The kitchen felt deceptively small. The shadows loomed larger and more foreboding, threatening to extinguish whatever shred of hope lingered in the space. A feral growl erupted from one of the shadows, a warning, maybe? And the leader brandished something metallic, glinting dangerously in the faint kitchen light. We're not leaving without what we came for. And if it means taking you down one by one, so be it. But just as the threat lanced through me like a dagger, I remembered the hidden compartment in the pantry, the place I had stashed years of memories and tokens of safety. It had to be now. Mark! The pantry! We can hide in there! I urged, words tumbling out in a frantic rush. The shadows flickered uncertainly as hesitation captured their expressions. It was all the opening we needed. Mark lunged toward the pantry with the others close behind. A brave retreat as I turned to face Ethan, my heart breaking at the thought of losing him again. Come on. We have to go. Carmen. He rasped, but I grasped his hand tightly. We were a tether now, unsure but unwavering in our resolve. Together we made our way into the pantry, the scent of wood mingling with the musk of time folding around us like wisps of dreams. As we huddled close, breathless, I caught a glimpse of the fear etched into Noah's expression, the weight of our choices anchoring us down in this moment. Just then the sound of shuffling footsteps echoed through the doorway, the shadows piercing our fragile sanctuary. You think hiding will save you? The leader taunted, a cruel edge threading through his voice. This story isn't over. Not by a long shot. A wave of panic surged within me, tightening like a noose. Our hearts raced as the darkness seemed to close in, an impending storm coiling its way around our fragile unity. We could have everything taken from us in an instant. The fear of losing it all showcased everything we had fought against, and then out of nowhere, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, a faint glimmer from the back of the pantry. My chest tightened as a realization dawned on me, accompanied by the undeniable warmth of emergent hope. Whatever lay beyond those walls, we would have to confront it together. Carmen, what Ethan began, but I shushed him, determination rising within me. A sudden crash echoed outside, followed by a chilling laugh from the shadows. Your time is running out, Carmen. You can either face your fate or let it consume you. And just as the words reverberated painfully through the stagnant air, an object fell from the hidden corner, the flicker of steel shining in the dusky light. Me mother's pendant, a symbol of our courage and resilience, bringing together the hopes of the past. I knew then that this was not merely a fight for survival, but a battle for everything we had left. Together, we would face whatever awaited us in the dark. But as I grasped the pendant, a feeling of both dread and new purpose surged within me, igniting a flicker of hope against the unfolding despair. Then came the shattering sound of splintering wood, and I felt my breath catch in my throat as the figures loomed closer. My heart raced as the realization hit. Our true battle was just beginning. The moment the dust settled, we knew we were standing on the precipice of our destinies. There was no escaping the reality that surged around us. We were tangled together in a web which spun from more than just betrayal and fear. It was laced with family and the love that once held us intact. I clutched the pendant tightly to my heart, its cool surface a stark reminder of our legacy, the very essence of who we were, but it also ignited the flames of our determination. Ethan stepped closer, driven by the fire that now blossomed in the depths of his eyes. "Carmen, we can't let them dictate our lives anymore," he said fiercely, and I felt the echoes of that same determination reverberate through my family members around me. Their faces were etched with fear, but within that fear burned something else, a longing for strength. Together, Emily whispered, her small hand finding mine. It was a declaration, a rallying cry that shook the very foundation of our collective doubts. Together, Mark, quiet until now, squeezed his fists at his sides, summoning all that he had kept buried within. "We owe each other the truth," he asserted, leaning toward Ethan, "and right now that's our weapon. We can get through this if we know who we really are." "There's power in honesty," Noah added, his voice steady, contagiously emboldening us all. "And we'll rise from these shadows." In that moment, the room felt charged not with violent intent, but with the pure, unyielding force the truth brings. The truth has the power to unearth long-buried fears, but it also has the ability to break chains, freeing us from the last remnants of darkness that sought to entangle us. When I looked at Ethan, I saw not just a shadow of the past, but a brother in arms we're not hiding anymore. I called out, my voice wrapping us tightly in newfound determination. "We're facing this together." My words resonated against the splintering walls, the shadows hesitating, as if the light of our resolve could scorch the very darkness they thrived in. Then came the sound of a loud crash, the force of darkness pushing against us, but we were ready. The door flew open, splintering against the hardwood frame, and there he was, the man who had haunted us, poised like a predator ready to strike. "You think you can stand against me?" he sneered, and the menacing tone slipped past our defenses, chilling the air between us. My heart raced, but it was no longer driven by fear. "I will end this, one way or another," Mark said, stepping forward, fury sparking in his chest. "You don't get to dictate our lives any longer. You think you know victory?" he challenged, eyeing him defiantly. "That's where you're wrong." We surged forward as one, the air thick with tension, the stakes interwoven with every heartbeat. For too long we had been the ones to hide, always fleeing from the fear rather than confronting it. It was our turn to stand, to claim our voice. And as each of us began to illuminate our truths, our walls of fabricated facade crumbled. I felt the warmth growing like sunlight breaking through clouds, blocking out the dawn, pushing shadows back into the corners. Emily's hand found Noah's, and together they stepped forward in solidarity. Their courage ignited a fierce bravery within me. And then Ethan stepped fully into the light, unearthing memories of friendship and loyalty entwined with courage. "You may think you hold power," he said with a steadiness I hadn't seen before, "but we stand united against that darkness. Your threats mean nothing now." Our unified voices surged in chorus, rising amid the tumult. It was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a reawakening of raw strength, an acknowledgement of the love that knotted us together, and the truths that made us whole. We were a tapestry. The shadowy figure faltered, uncertainty flickering beneath his cold facade, and as he hesitated, I seized the moment, lifting my mother's pendant high, its beauty reflecting the hope we had rekindled. "We are not afraid anymore," I called out defiantly, the words echoing resolutely in the space between us. "This is our legacy, our story. You cannot take that from us. The truth will always rise." And in that moment, clarity enveloped us. We rose not merely to fight against the darkness closing in, but to reclaim our existence, the truth of who we were and what we had already endured. As we stood united, the shadows contorted around us like a storm front retreating at dawn. The man before us faltered, a tremor running through him as realization dawned. Perhaps he understood the true power of what we had summoned, the undeniable tenacity forged in the fires of every loss we had suffered, every fractured promise we had endured, every secret we had set free. And as we stood together, hearts beating as one, my thoughts buzzed, flickering between endless possibilities. There was danger lurking still, but we wouldn't be alone. This moment marked the beginning of our reclamation. We had endured. We would prevail, that we remained side by side. And I knew with every fiber of my being that no matter what awaited us, we could face it. With every breath resonating with strength, I realized we had transformed our fears into bravery. And that was our only armor. The final battle was strewn ahead, but we had birthed a conviction within you so neither darkness nor shadows could extinguish. As the figure retreated in disbelief, his smirk fading like the remnants of a failing storm, I caught the glint of our legacy. I knew we'd embark on a journey to reclaim what was ours, and as I turned to my family, hope danced in the air around us. Together we would face whatever may come, anchored in the truth of love and unity. And I would carry forward the legacy of resilience, proving that while darkness might encroach on us, the light of our connection could never be extinguished. Before we stepped through the doorway into the uncertain world outside, I took a moment to immerse myself in the heart of it all, the warmth, the laughter, the tears woven within our collective tapestry. As echoes of past pains faded, we raced toward the horizon, ready to forge a future beyond fear, equipped with the knowledge that in facing our truth together, we would never again be lost. Once again, hope shimmered before us, not just as a distant beacon, but as the very foundation of who we were destined to become. And with that, I whispered the words that would guide our way: we're just getting started.